In 1975, near Zurich, Switzerland, a one-armed farmer named Edward Billy Meyer claims to have been contacted by beings from another world. A gleaming silver spaceship descended from the sky and landed in a remote woodland where Meyer alone had face-to-face exchange with a lovely blonde lady from the stars. She told him her name was Semyasi and that she came from the Pleiades. Such was Meyer's claim, a story that would ultimately be labeled too good to be true, the hoax of the century, or the start of a new age for humankind. Meyer's tale of a captivating girl visiting from the stars bears all the idyllic charm of James Hilton's book Lost Horizon. Only in this case, rather than a utopian culture hidden in the lofty Himalayas, an extraterrestrial Shangri-La exists in the distant Pleiades star cluster 500 light-years away from Earth. And yet, despite this story's innocent appeal, it has sparked an international firestorm of swirling controversy. Along with his claim of extraterrestrial contact, Meyer shared a collection of the most spectacular UFO photographs ever produced, along with the claim that the Pleiadians actually posed their ships for him to capture on film. Pictures this good could only be hoaxed. Once Meyer's story hit the European news agencies, teams of UFO investigators from around the world descended upon the Meyer farm near Zurich to prove him a fraud. Yet exhaustive efforts to expose his hoax actually seemed to further authenticate his claims. In 1980, one of the original investigators was retired Air Force Colonel Wendell Stevens.
One of the most convincing UFO cases of all time began in January 1975 in Switzerland. The experience begins in a UFO abduction case. A Swiss farmer was taken aboard a spacecraft, articulated words with the occupants, and began an exchange of information that has continued on and is going on today, still going on today. The spacecraft flew out of the blue and landed. The occupant got out and stood in the grass and sat on the grass and talked to the man, and they had an exchange that lasted 20 minutes, and there have been 116 contacts since then. Case involved a Mr. Billy Meyer. In response to his question, they said that they come from the Pleiades. They said that they are here observing humanity, that they have information, some of the information is of a scientific nature, and that he would be asked to pass it to other people. They say that they are not gods, they're not superior people, they are men just like we are men. And he's taken hundreds of photographs of the Pleiadian spacecraft operating in Swiss airspace. And this has all been checked by the computer. The computer says that this object is on the order of 20 feet in diameter and about 120 yards away. It agrees with what the witness said about the diameter. He says it's 7 meters in diameter, it's about 21 feet. He took messages, he copied notes from the Pleiadians, wrote them down, over 2,000 pages worth. Here's a book of 600 pages that I have translated into English so far, and this represents 1/4 of the notes. We have no case on record with that volume of information delivered by extraterrestrial contacts to a contactee, a UFO contactee. And the information in there is just staggering, just phenomenal. The information covers technical and scientific data as best they can explain it to us in terms of the words that we use in our technology. It gets into spiritual problems, spiritual development of man and our relationship to deity. It describes other existences in space, other human beings living in other planetary environments.
By 1980, after 5 years of multiple contacts, Meyer's meticulous journal grew to more than 3,000 pages of messages from the Pleiades. And yet what kind of information could beings traveling 500 light-years across space have to share with their earthly brothers? Meyer's alien friend, Semyasi, claimed that since our separate races were genetically related, they felt duty-bound to inform the people of Earth that we were, in fact, not the only rational thinking beings alive in the universe. As well, Semyasi emphasized that all life in the universe sprang from one common source.
Above everything stands one force alone, We call it the creation. It regulates the laws overall, the life and death of everything in the universe, because it is everything in the universe. Real spirituality comes from the understanding of the laws of nature, the natural working of cause and effect, each contributing to and sharing with all. When you indulge in ritual and ceremony, real spirit pines away until it is gone. A spiritually developed being acknowledges creation in all things, from the largest to the smallest. Following this way, fears and doubts vanish like rain before the sun.
Such was the wisdom of Sannyasi, gentle metaphysical homilies from across the galaxy. But was she imparting insights unique to her Pleiadian culture? Or could such sage wisdom be discovered closer to home? As researcher Wendell Stevens was diligently translating Billy Meier's Pleiadian teachings from German into English, the phenomenal Hollywood film success Star Wars and its sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, were both sharing philosophical insights curiously similar to Sannyasi's message.
The Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
It is curious to find these imaginary Hollywood film characters describing the Force as a universal energy field, virtually the same as Sannyasi's description of the creation. By the mid-1980s, Billy Meier's notorious UFO contact case had gained significant international attention. Even the word Pleiadian was becoming synonymous with spiritual enlightenment, thanks in great measure to yet another Hollywood icon, Shirley MacLaine. With her controversial best-selling book, Out on a Limb, and its subsequent TV movie, Shirley shared her own deeply personal quest into Pleiadian philosophies. Through a composite character named David, she is introduced to these alien insights. On a shared visit to Peru, David confesses having actually met extraterrestrials, a revelation Shirley finds totally threatening to her own ideals and lifestyle.
Progress? Progress? You and your pontificating? You're talking about upsetting everything mankind believes in and replacing it with something outrageous. It's metaphysical Twilight Zone mumbo-jumbo, and you call it progress.
That's funny. Maya thinks that our priorities are mumbo-jumbo. She thinks we live in the Dark Ages. But just take a look at the world, for God's sake. Isn't it clear that we need a change, and soon?
I don't want to talk about this anymore. You know something? I was real wrong about you. You're a nuts. You're nuts.
Wait a minute.
No.
Mayan told me to tell you one thing if you had a hard time with this. She said in order to get to the fruit of the tree, you have to go out on a limb.
I don't believe this is happening to me. I've got to get out of here.
Wait a minute.
No, I've got to see what's familiar. I want to go home. I want to get my old way of thinking back again. You stay in your fantasy world if you want to. It's not for me.
It's not fantasy. It happened. It is happening. And I didn't want to believe it any more than you do. Shirley, it took me 2 trips down here and 2 months of talking to Mayan before I was even civil to her. She almost gave up on me. And she was threatening what I called my sanity, too.
But after a while, I had to admit that she was making sense.
But I can go along with a lot, David. But you talking to a person from the Pleiadians just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but it happened. And someone is behind those crafts. What are you afraid of? Shirley,
Okay,
please, Shirley.
Okay, I've got it. Will you let me go?
Yes.
Thanks.
That was probably the most confusing period of my whole life. I walked and I thought by myself for 3 days. Was David really crazy? Or was what he was saying so threatening to me that I couldn't think straight? I always reacted negatively when I heard something that disturbed me or that I couldn't understand. Did I identify myself by what I couldn't understand or by what frightened me? Or could life actually be defined more by its possibilities than by its limitations? And was I on the threshold of understanding that there might be people out there who actually lived that way, with no sense of limitation? Then he talked about the unseen energy that she and the Pleiadians had learned to work with. He called it the divine God intelligence force. He said the energy of that God intelligence and the energy of the human soul were made up of the same characteristics.
It's faster than the speed of light. It's sort of like Superman or something. And that the feelings of love quicken the flow of energy to its ultimate.
So this God energy is really scientific, you're saying?
Yeah, spiritually scientific. But technology without an understanding of God is destructive. Technology with an understanding of God is virtually unlimited. And everybody, each of us in our own souls, in our own hearts, knows that, because our heart or our soul is a reflection of God.
In subsequent writings, Shirley revealed her fascination with the Swiss Pleiadian UFO case, and that she had personally met Billy Meier at his farm. No doubt a large measure of the David character from Out on a Limb was developed from that visit. And yet Billy Meier was not the only individual claiming to have visitation with Pleiadian travelers. In June of 1974, 1 year earlier than Billy Meier's claimed UFO contact, a freelance Hollywood promoter by the name of Charles Silva claims also to have been approached by a Pleiadian female while on holiday in Peru. In the book Date with the Gods, Silva recounts his chance encounter with a petite, enigmatic beauty calling herself Rama, who was tooling the Peruvian backroads on, of all things, a Los Angeles Police Department motorcycle. Fascinated by her outrageous audacity and mysterious charm, Silva struck up a companionship with this girl only to discover she was not of this world. Charles Silva was a hard-boiled, no-nonsense businessman, but through the course of their discussions, Rama ultimately convinced him of her Pleiadian identity. And as well, she shared insights on universal cosmology that once again paralleled Samyasi's description of the creation. This energy is your soul, your spirit, what you are, what I am, what we all are. Our human bodies are made up of atoms. Our spirit is made of energy. When physicists in your world get to know and understand this field of science, when they're thoroughly convinced that the soul of the human body is part of God, made solely and exclusively of energy, then they'll have to define God as a great positive energy, an intelligent force pervading the entire universe. The unmistakable similarities between Charles Silva's contact account and Shirley MacLaine's David character in Out on a Limb suggest a collaboration intended to further promote public awareness of the Pleiadian message. This fundamental teaching of cosmic unity seems so deceptively simple, yet why does Earth humanity not readily embrace it? Why should beings travel hundreds of light years across space to impart basic universal truths that humans of Earth should already know for themselves. In fact, why does much of humanity react to such ideas with open hostility? It seems there is an unaccountable dissonance within the collective human psyche that blocks our spiritual growth, as if an artificial interference retards the natural spiritual evolution of our species. This key issue is directly addressed by yet another source of Pleiadian teachings. In 1992, Barbara Marciniak published an anthology of information she claimed to have intuitively received from a collective consciousness also originating from the Pleiades. Her book, Bringers of the Dawn, reveals that in times long past, humans were fully aware and cognizant of their true spiritual identity and heritage. However, over the vast span of ages, our enlightened race fell victim to marauding extraterrestrials who invaded our world and gained control over the human population. Before the raid, you had tremendous abilities. The original biogenetic example of the human was given incredible information, was interdimensional, and could do many things. When those creator gods raided, they found that the local species had abilities that were too much like those who were passing themselves off as God. Marciniak's channeling further states that humanity faces a future of dramatic spiritual reawakening. It is time for the people of Earth to become sovereign. The ultimate tyranny in a society is not control by martial law. It is the control by the psychological manipulation of consciousness, through which reality is defined so that those who exist within it do not even realize that they are in prison. You have been controlled like sheep in a pen by those who think they own you, from the government to the world management team to those in space. Understand that you create your own reality, and that every other person creates their reality. Everyone has the opportunity to wake up at any time. When enough people create their own reality, consciously create it, you will create a new planet. This goes back to the idea that the world is not solid. It is constructed of energy, and that energy takes form through the thoughts of those that participate within the world. Many of these Pleiadian revelations shared in the book Bringers of the Dawn have been independently verified by the research of British author, lecturer David Icke. In his book Children of the Matrix, Icke confirms that an insidious, subtle psychological influence has crippled humanity's spiritual evolution for centuries. Most of the human race is so utterly indoctrinated by the externally implanted norms that bombard their minds from the cradle to the grave that they have no comprehension that their normal thinking is their own individual and collective prison.
And the only way they can run the planet, coming to the second part of your question, is keeping us in ignorance. So what they've done, something you mentioned earlier, is that they have created a situation by controlling the flow of information that the human race receives, in which they have delinked us from knowledge of who we are, our true power, our true knowledge of where we've come from, the true history, the knowledge of the scam. And basically they have turned a race of multidimensional infinite beings into a herd of flippin' sheep, who not only follow norms which are set for them, like mental and emotional prisons, they insist that everyone else conforms to them same norms, otherwise they're ridiculed or condemned for the crime of being different. We have been completely stitched up here. Now, mentally and emotionally, now if we just wake up, and again I've spoken in 14, 15 countries since this time last year, and there is a global awakening going on. More and more people are waking up. What we've talked about tonight, more and more people are saying, oh, well, that does start to make a bit more sense. A few years ago, they'd said that guy needs a white coat, send him away.
Such enlightened sociological insights from David Icke seem to echo Pleiadian thought as well, as if to foreshadow a dynamic alteration in our human potential. and yet modern civilization appears locked on an inexorable course of social and economic deterioration, designed to establish a monolithic regime of fascist world rule. Is there any hope at all for human spiritual enlightenment? Even investigator Wendell Stevens' outlook was grim as he explained the purpose of the Pleiadian contact.
They're here because they're concerned about us, their younger brothers. Our technical potentials have exceeded our spiritual capability of handling the information, and we are now in a position where we can destroy ourselves, and we don't have the spiritual development to prevent it. And because of this, we have become a laboratory experiment. They're waiting to see what we're going to do. As a matter of fact, they don't see us solving the problem. They see us as an insane society rushing headlong to destruction. And that only a change of mass mind on a mass scale can influence it. And they don't see this happening. And that's staggering because it's us that's involved.
So, in the face of such a dire outlook, does all this metaphysical discussion about the Force, creation, and universal consciousness from the Space Brothers amount to so much meaningless UFO tabloid trivia? Or are we on the cusp of an extraordinary scientific awakening of human awareness that is unfolding at this time? Are humans of Earth actually beginning to confirm these astounding truths for themselves? Could there be a glimmer of hope for the higher evolution of Earth humankind after all? Two extraordinary documentary films, What the Bleep Do We Know? And The Secret, both reveal this dynamic human potential. These cutting-edge films feature professional doctors, physicists, psychologists, authors, philosophers, and theologians, none of whom claim to be extraterrestrial, who are all pioneering a new science and worldview that encompasses and corroborates virtually all the insights shared by these multiple Pleiadian sources. Sannyasi stated, "One can never identify God separately from creation because God itself is a part of it." Quantum physicist Dr. Fred Alan Wolf states,
at a fundamental level that is even difficult to observe, there's one God self that is all of us. We grow from that. The whole universe grew from it, and each of the separate personalities that appeared have grown from it, with the illusion that each one is a separate individual, but actually we're all from the same tree.
Considering this, there can be no fundamental difference between a being alive in the Pleiades star cluster or a human alive on planet Earth, or anywhere else in the cosmos for that matter. We are each individualized expressions of a single consciousness. No matter where they exist, we are them, and they are us, and we all share the same unlimited potentials. Or as Dr. John Hagelin states,
and all our separate consciousness, wherever there's consciousness, is merely consciousness by virtue of the fact that my consciousness, your consciousness, are ultimately that. Everything in the universe is really nothing but that. Planets, trees, people, animals, we're all just waves of vibration of this underlying unified superstring field. We are really united at our core. And ultimately the understanding that's emerging will be that there is only one consciousness in this room. And it is you, and it is me, and that is each and every one of us. We individualize our consciousness through the filter of our nervous system, but the consciousness itself, our very inner subjectivity, the self in the big sense, that is universal. And knowing that, knowing it through experience, is called enlightenment, and has been called enlightenment through the ages.
Considering this, the daily reality we experience is the reflection of the predominant focus of our individual and collective consciousness. Author Lisa Nichols in The Secret observes,
Your life is a physical manifestation of the thoughts that go on in your head.
However, for this fundamental truth of cosmic unity to be of any worth, Humans must gain this understanding for themselves. No matter how exalted the teacher, be it an avatar or an extraterrestrial, the lesson is of greatest value when the people of Earth can come to this realization for themselves. And now, after centuries of division, science and religion are at last finding a common ground in the understanding of spirituality through the revolutionary findings of quantum physics. Even the Holy Bible confirms this fundamental quantum law of attraction. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Spiritual self-awareness is the key to liberation, but enlightenment is a tricky business. That's why the Pleiadian armada does not land on the White House lawn. Humanity doesn't sufficiently realize its own God-self to handle such a grand encounter. To be of genuine value, this realization must come from the inside out. And yet, does all of this prove that Billy Meyer, Charles Silva, and others have actually met extraterrestrials? No. However, quantum physics does open the window to a world view where interstellar space travel, time travel, telepathy, and universal consciousness are no longer rationally impossible. It makes them plausible scientific possibilities, which in turn makes claims of Pleiadian contact equally plausible as well. Awakening to our unlimited spiritual potential is the primary message. We humans of Earth stand at the threshold of this incredible opportunity to realize our true potential as individualized expressions of a universal consciousness, shared equally by all living beings across the cosmos, to reclaim our sovereignty and ultimately transform this planet from a prison to a paradise. Jesus said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." And when asked, "Where is that kingdom?" Jesus replied, "The kingdom of God is within you." And then Jesus replied, "Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods?" St. Francis of Assisi said, "What we are looking for is what is looking." Or, to paraphrase Obi-Wan Kenobi, "The Force has been with you always, because the Force is you."
We are not superior beings, nor are we missionaries, but we feel duty-bound to the humans of Earth to tell them the only thing limiting the progress of the Earth human is the Earth human himself.